right? But not only is the horizon not here, I can see the surface of the water here, and I can see the surface of the water far beyond here. So again, if something doesn't curve, then it's what?
Me personally, I think it's kind of good that Bart isn't a flat earther because if he
Yeah, you were
was,
saying this
he'd be
yesterday.
having to do what you do, Dave, which is battle all these people. And instead, he's just a whistleblower. And for the
Maybe
flat earth
he's
community,
secretly a flat earther and he
and
just
that's
doesn't
another
want to tell
thing I think
anybody,
about too.
right?
Like, don't
Like
talk
Killa,
about that.
Killa is a flat earther. He is. He is.
Yeah, you reckon
But
he's a
he's
Yeah.
flyover? We're gonna
yeah,
find
for
out.
sure, man.
We have to
For
find
sure.
out because that's what
No
I was
doubt.
saying to Vinny. I was like, man, do you reckon he like? He seems like he's getting it. He seems like he's getting it, but you don't know.
Well, hold on. Now, I want to get Aaron involved because I love Aaron. This guy is amazing, super smart,
Mm.
and
It,
I see him
it,
just listening to us go on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
he
Aaron,
went.
Hey
you have
guys.
Eric. Are you using Eric Dollard's computer or is that just your screen name?
Um, I was testing Eric's Zoom call account to make sure he could log in and stuff when I had the verification
Oh,
thing on.
so
Okay,
should
So
I
I
so
take
forgot to
Eric
log out
out?
of it. So it's
Should I take Eric out? Should I take Eric out?
I
Because
can
well, you can change his name. You just click on it, I think.
I guess I can log out and log back in.
no, I can. I think like Dave was
You
saying.
want me to do that?
Yeah, I can change your name. No, I can change the name.
Okay.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
if anyone doesn't know Aaron Murakami, and maybe you heard of Eric Dollard, Eric Dollard is internationally recognized as the expert in Tesla technology, and Aaron is works with him for a long time. So, you know,
Yeah, 14
extremely
years.
smart. Wow, yeah, I know it's been a long time, and
Wow.
yeah, and Aaron, like I said, awesome guy, and I always appreciate you doing this stuff for me and going on the Killer Priest podcast and
Hey,
all that.
thank you. Yeah, and thanks for this opportunity here.
Yeah, Aaron
Wicked,
went
man.
to where his warehouse. Is that what you call a warehouse, a laboratory, where you got all
Yeah,
your
yeah, it's
equipment and stuff?
down in Tonopah. It's about 2.5 hours northwest of Vegas.
Nice, nice.
How long have you? How long's the facility been there then?
In Tonopah,
Yeah.
he's been there for probably about 15 years, and before then, he was living out of his 1980 Toyota Corolla in the desert in Lone Pine, California.
Wow.
And so before then, he was in Landers, California, doing a lot of stuff with listening to Earth signals, and he had a big radio antenna system complex there, like transmitting into the Earth telluric transmission, the way Tesla did.
Wow.
Radio waves and proving different things that go against the conventional. None of it is electromagnetic waves. It's just longitudinal stuff that a lot of people erroneously says scalar waves. But what they mean by that is longitudinal, which means it's instantaneous propagation. Extraluminal. It's outside of the whole Einstein propaganda paradigm.
I
Nice.
got a rookie question for you here. Does Eric view the Earth as a plane or a planet?
A a planet, but there's indications that it's hollow because of
Oh,
actual radio signals being projected into the Earth. And because in Landers, California, where he had this setup, he was able to listen to the Earth on like a Earth stereo with different phases of Earth signals coming out and doing these experiments with, broadcasting signals into the Earth, and the way that they moved and propagated gave an indication that it's hollow. Eric doesn't like to speculate a lot because he likes to stay more, scientific, objective, but he will go into, some of his beliefs. He hasn't really gone too much into it, but this concept of, a molten iron core spinning, creating the Earth's magnetic field and all this.
mhm.
I don't think he really believes in that. I don't believe in it. When iron heats up, one of the first things it does is it loses its ability to retain magnetism. So how is a molten iron core creating a magnetic field? He explains it more in an electric solar system model where the Earth's magnetic field actually comes from the sun. and there's all this electrical activity between the sun, the earth, the moon, the whole solar system. And there's a lot of these electric solar system models that seem to be a lot more accurate than the conventional explanations. But a lot of people in the modern day who are presenting themselves as these gurus on this, electric solar system, electric universe kind of model, a lot of it is kind of knocked off from somebody named James McCanney, who a lot of people haven't really heard that name, but he's the one that kind of seems to have pioneered a lot of that electric solar system kind of model. After that, the thing that is probably going to be even way bigger than Bitcoin is going to be water, because there's going to be water wars. A lot of the,
Yeah.
wealthy
Yep.
psycho billionaires are buying
And
a lot
plus
of
you got
land.
the data centers that they're building are using up all the water they're talking about. It's definitely going to be wars.
Yeah, so I'm not too concerned about that kind of water usage, because when the water heats up and it evaporates, it goes into the environment, it's just going to wind up condensing and, raining back down and stuff. What I'm concerned about is a lot of these people locking up big pieces of land that are over aquifers where they can pump water out of for drinking. And, this has been going on for decades right now. And so at some point, you know, they'll put a meter on the air you breathe if they could get away with it. They would.
Oh yeah, carbon
And
credits. They're trying.
yeah, and they're going to do the same thing with water if they can, is to control water. And so if you have a way to empower people that they could get, water from almost any source at almost no cost, then, that's pretty powerful.
That is.
But
Yeah, I,
the water wars are coming. I mean, you look at in God, this maybe 20 years ago or more, something like that. The Bush family bought like a couple 100,000 acres in Uruguay or Paraguay or something down in South America over one of the largest freshwater aquifers on the planet. It's not for the land on top, it's for the water underneath. Bill Gates
Yeah.
has more farmland than anybody in the country, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to try to control food too, but there's also aquifer water under there. And so,
Aaron, have you looked into primary water? Do you know about primary water?
yeah, so a lot of water is actually created in the rocks. And it's been known for a long time that, you tap into rocks and it comes bursting out like a fire hose.
Wow.
So I don't know a lot about it, but I know that there's a lot to that. And, they've discovered down in the ground that there's a massive reservoir of water that like is more water than all the oceans in the world combined, for
Correct.
example.
So yeah, so when you talk about water wars, like in California, they only let you drill a well to something like 300 feet, because if you
Mhm.
go any farther, you're going to hit primary water, and it's going to be in not a reservoir, an ocean of
Mhm.
pristine water. So when you say water wars, it's just a matter of there's enough water for everyone to have their own reservoir.
Mhm.
Gigantic reservoir for every person. That's how much water is. Gaddafi discovered primary water under the desert when he was drilling for oil, and built the. Have you heard about the Great Man-Made River? It's one of
Mhm.
the biggest kept secrets. It's the biggest disaster. Well, the biggest plague on humanity, whatever you want to call it, that's ever happened. Where for 40 years he was building aquifers, for to transport water all across Africa. And when he was finished, the Clinton, the Obama and Clinton's blew it up with depleted uranium bombs. I mean, it was the biggest water aquifer project in known history. I won't say it's the biggest ever.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. Water is the next big thing, but it's not like there's a shortage of water. It's just
No.
who's going to be able to access
Mhm.
the infinite amount of water that there is.
Yeah.
So just anyone that's interested, has never heard about it, the Great Man-Made River, on my channel, DITRH, if you just search Great Man-Made River, Muammar Gaddafi, I made 2 videos on it. They're short. Check them out and do your own research.
That's interesting.
I've heard
I
that
mean,
about oil as well. Oil, apparently, there's
Yeah,
primary
it's
oil
everywhere.
too.
Yeah,
It, it
it's
re
everywhere.
yeah, it
Reg
regenerates itself.
yeah.
It
yeah, they
regenerates
drill.
itself.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
they
Yep.
pump they pump the oil out, come back years later, and then it's full. It's
it's
like the
full
earth.
again.
Yeah, the earth creates oil. I think it's like a bacterial process or something,
Right.
but it's in constant production. and there is no oil shortage. That's all
Yep.
part of the, fear mongering on all, running out of resources and this kind of thing. But yeah, the
Are you saying
oil is the same way.
are you saying there's an infinite amount of dinosaurs?
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
joke.
No,
That's a joke.
That's the
That's a
thing.
joke. That's a
Yeah,
joke.
I
No,
do
no.
but
believe there were dinosaurs, but
Oh, okay.
I do not believe that oil is
No,
fossil
from dinosaurs.
fuels.
Okay,
No,
good.
I think it's a bacterial process. It was a Russian or Ukrainian. I can't remember what the name of the model is, that they have for where the oil comes from. That seems to be one of more accurate. And I don't know if it's necessarily related to bacteria, but I do think it's a bacterial process.
yeah, I've heard some people say it's the blood of the earth. I don't know how,
That That's interesting because years ago I talked to John Bedini about this. John Bedini was another genius in a lot of different technologies that I'm involved in, and he was a mentor of mine for about 18 years. We're talking about earthquakes and stuff, and one of my thoughts was that if you're drilling so much oil, that might be like lubrication for the tectonic plates, and if you pump that oil
mm,
out, no more lubrication, and so the pressure builds up,
wow.
and then we're having all these these earthquakes and stuff. It was just an idea that I had, but I
That's
haven't
a good thought
heard
though.
any.
Yeah,
That's a real
sounds
good
pretty
thought.
accurate.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's funny about the bottled water. What does Evian spell backwards?
Naive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And your dose of microplastics too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most bottled water is municipally treated water, which just means tap water going through a mediocre carbon filter, and that's it.
Yeah.
Most of it is all garbage.
And it all has all of the energy from everything it's ever touched. Right? Water holds memory. So
I do believe
Yeah.
that,
when you
absolutely.
start, everyone knows about Emoto, what's his name? The guy that did the pictures in the water. There's
Yeah. Dr.
another girl,
Lamar.
I'm spacing on her name right now. She took it to the next level. Amazing, amazing stuff. I'll think of her name in a minute.
I think I've heard about who was it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard something about a lady. Um, hold on. So Emoto was the one they did like a bunch of singing by a swamp, and then the water became pure. Was it, or they were praying or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I've forgotten what the girl did, but I
The
heard about
girl's
it
name,
recently.
the girl's name
Oh
is I got
man.
it right here. It's Veda Austin. Veda Austin is I think that's the name of her channel. And amazing, amazing work. Just what your thoughts, when people pray over their food, I used to be like, oh yeah, praying over food, big deal. You're literally changing the structure of the water in your food. Because you can everyone knows about the rice experiment where you hateful you tell the rice that's in the water that you hate it, and you tell the rice that you love it, and then the rice that you hate will turn black and the other one will thrive. um so it's they don't want us to know these things. So all of these things lead to knowledge and to not obeying the people that want to rule over you.
Yeah, I mean, I believe like everything has a certain level of water content, like water content. So I can imagine that that's probably what's happening with the rice, and even what happens with
Right.
us, like what percentage of water, and you can even walk into a room, your friends are in there, and you can sense that there's been an argument or something. You can feel it, No one needs
Yep.
to say anything, and I believe it's because of the water. It's like how the water's reacting to what's going on around it.
And it's like everywhere I look, there's something relating to water, that's going on. And it's interesting because it seems so simple, but it still seems to be one of the most complex, substances in the universe that's upside down and backwards from everything. I mean, you know, how many things expand when it freezes? It gets cold. Everything else contracts when it gets cold or expands when it heats up, and water expands when it freezes. So there's all these strange anomalies. And then looking into the consciousness aspect of water, like what Emoto was into, and kind of popularized a lot of the intention influencing water and how it changes. These are things that I hope the mainstream will embrace, because there's too much evidence just showing the obvious reality to it, intention and frequencies and that kind of stuff. But um Yeah, a lot of my research is in frequency research too. And I don't know how that ties into, some of this other work that you guys might be into, but
That's interesting, though. There's a lot. There's a lot there. I wanted to go back to the water thing, though, if you don't mind, because there was something that yeah, I kind of got a bit confused about, which was, I believe, yeah, you were saying about the primary water coming from rocks. Like, is there any way you can explain the process of the water being made within the rock? Then,
Is it coming from the rocks or is it below the rocks?
Below the rocks, or what? How?
I don't know, but it's not talked about very much. I don't know much about it other than it's a known phenomenon.
So one of the sites, I haven't been there in a while, is primarywater.org.
Yeah,
you can check that out. Yeah, check it out. There's a lot of information there, but and then again, if you can find my video, The Great Man-Made River by Muammar Gaddafi, it'll blow your mind. And it's like, it should be like every student in school should know about this, and nobody has even heard of it, adults or kids. I have a little more spiritual idea of what water is. What if water is the physical manifestation of God? Right? Think about it. Water, nowhere in the Bible it says it created water. Water was here, and they created the earth within the water. Without water, we're all dead. Water holds memory, right? Water is all around us. Water's above and below us. So it's like God everywhere around us. Water manifests miracles. Water falls from the sky, so it kind of dies and then goes back to the heavens again. Right? It comes down, it saves us, and then it evaporates and goes back up. What else do I have? You can't be alive without water, right? Without water, you have no life. Nothing is alive without water.
Yeah, the plants, everything.
Yeah. Water holds information. Now, you've heard that like a drop of water holds terabytes of information. I can't even fathom that. I can't verify it, but that's what they claim. And it seems that way to me. When I look up at the clouds, I think they're sentient, angelic, non-physical. And they could be holding tons of information in this intelligent world that we live in, this intelligently designed world. When you look into the water, you see your reflection. The image, you see your image in the water. Right?
Deep, Dave. This is deep, Dave.
Yeah.
Yo.
And then think about this. People throw coins into a well and make a wish. Where did that come from?
Wow, like you're praying.
You're praying to the water, and the water holds your memory. And then I encourage everybody to watch the Veda Austin interviews. Watch a couple of interviews. It will blow your mind. It will absolutely blow your mind, and you'll never look at water the same. I distill my water, 50 light bulbs burning for 4 hours.
Yeah. I do the
then
same.
I put it into blue glass bottles that have sacred geometry carved into them. Then I put it on the windowsill so it gets sunlight through the blue glass. Sometimes I play Holy Harmony to it, and then I put it on my plasma generator to infuse it with plasma. And then I thank it and I drink it.
That's awesome.
I'm crazy. I'm just a crazy guy, though.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't sleep with it, bro.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Another experiment that they did, I didn't see this one, but it was in a presentation, is they took a tube of Nafion, put these microparticles in the water just so you could look at the flow of how water is moving. And in this tube of Nafion, all these particles are showing that the water is moving through it unidirectionally, nonstop, like with no energy input that you have to expend, which means it's freely pumping the water through it in one direction, just nonstop. And what's interesting about the easy water is if you expose the water to infrared, the exclusion zone grows and grows and grows, bigger and bigger, which is really interesting. So some of the stuff that this is related to is like how blood is pumping through our body.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the heart is not a pump.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rudolf Steiner was one of the first to propose that in the modern age, that the heart is not really a pump. It has mild pumping action, but it's more an electrical impulse generator. And what's pumping our blood through our body is water, easy water. So in the inner periphery of our like arteries, for example, there's like this negative friction barrier of the easy water around the periphery of our vessels. And that is what is like electrically pulling the blood at a negative resistance through our body. And that's really what's pumping it. And the heart is giving the electrical impulse to make this happen. So one of the, so like red blood cells are like 3 times the diameter of our capillaries. How are you going to pump a blood cell that's 3 times bigger than the tube the tube it's going through? These are interesting questions that I think need to be asked. So, for example, some of the experiments that were done was they took like mice, they put a circulation meter, however they're detecting, blood circulation. Then what they did was they killed the mouse and they put infrared on the mouse. With that infrared light shining on the mice, that blood continued to pump for like over 50 minutes and the heart was not even beating. So what does that tell you?
Crazy.
I mean, this is a trip. There's been experiments with water in trees, so like, water or, roots are going to pull water up and distribute it through the tree. And you would think that this is a slow process. Well, there's been some experiments and stuff where they've been able to detect that there's been water movement moving upwards through like big pine trees and stuff like at over 100 miles an hour. This is like crazy stuff. But
Aaron, have you looked into giant trees of the past? And if you look at like these tabletop mountains, like in Hawaii, where there's waterfalls coming up, where's all this water coming from? It's coming up. Now, does that mean it's a tree stump? I'm not saying that, but it's something to look at.
I've seen pictures of it, Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and
I'm
these
not
kind
sure
of
that's
things.
a tree, by the way. That one looks like a tree. I'm not sure that one's a tree.
Yeah,
but there's bigger ones, I think.
Yeah, but that concept of these things that look like it looks like it. For me, the jury is still out because I don't know.
Good answer.
It's an interesting idea. There's things all around. I mean, I have no doubt that there's been ancient civilizations, plant life, mankind and related that have had these cycles over and over and over. There's all kinds of things that have been built and, have been covered up and grown over and disappeared. And
there's a channel called Hangman 1128 on YouTube, and he shows some really undeniable stuff about trees that make any of the giant trees in California look like weeds. So check it out. Again, everyone needs to investigate. Don't believe anything you hear here or anywhere else. You got to verify everything yourself.
So what's the deal with the giant trees? They chop them down or what? How did they?
I don't know. Who are they? Are the angels, the god, or giants? Who knows? I have no idea. I wasn't there.
Big chainsaws or, that looks like a pretty clean cut.
Or
laser beam. I don't know.
Energy weapons. Yeah, we don't know. But there's biblical stories about, the angels came down to cut down the trees to kill the giants so they couldn't climb the trees when the flood came. I don't know anything.
You got Jack and the Beanstalk.
There's so much. Yeah. The guy, Hangman 1128, he's showing these rock cliffs up in the mountains. And he goes, look, and how the rocks are broken apart with clean cuts. And he shows a decaying piece of cedar close up, and it looks exactly like the rocks. So this little piece that's decaying on the cedar, he shows something that's 50 feet long, which is the same type of piece. And then he's showing you can kind of see the wood grain in the rock a little bit. And at one point, he cleaves a piece of the rock away, and there's wood behind it. All right. It's one thing we know for sure, this place is not what we know it is, not what we think it is.
Definitely.
It's more than that.
Well, that's interesting with the giant stuff in the past because there seems to be some kind of correlation with the fact that we also had way higher oxygen concentrations in the environment, for growth. And talking about that hollow earth and, what's inside, what's interesting is that if you look at, the idea of Pangaea, where all continents were basically one. But the thing is if you remove all the ocean, all those basically make a sphere, where the earth where it basically makes a sphere that's, I don't know, maybe 1/6 the size of what the Earth is today, which is roughly about the same size as the moon. And so if the Earth was smaller and over time through centrifugal, force, little by little by little expanding, you're roughly going to have about the same amount of mass. We collect space dust and whatever, little bit here and there, but it's not going to be that much different from what it was in ancient times. And so if the Earth was small and as it's growing out and the continents are moving to make space for the oceans, that means that mass has to be displaced outwards, which would, give some, credence to the concept of
Aaron, that scenario makes perfect sense. The problem I have, and I'm not claiming I know anything for sure, is at the radius they give us the Earth, there has to be curvature, and we can't detect any curvature. We can see things that would require a radius of 4,000 miles. No, 400,000 miles when the radius is just under 4,000 miles. So we have seen things that would require the Earth to be 1,000 times bigger than it is. So if the Earth is a sphere, a hollow one or not, 1,000 times bigger, what are they hiding? Are there 9,000 continents, 8,000 continents, whatever? So figuring out what this place is, I think, is an important step in us freeing ourselves from the ball slave system. And the thing I say is, if something doesn't curve, then it's what, Vinny? If something doesn't curve, then it's what? Right.
What?
And if something doesn't move, then it's what?
So
Stationary.
So a personal experience I had in 1987. So this is living over in Japan on Yokota Air Force Base, which is roughly an hour from Tokyo. My dad's originally from Japan, but we went back there. He was in the Air Force. And in 1987, okay, so I'm about 14 years old, about ninth grade. And I was in the Boy Scouts. So we did a camp out thing where we hiked to the top of Mount Fuji. You drive up to like station 5 or 6 or whatever, so you can drive quite a ways up. And then there's these, trails that are, you don't have to like scale a mountain. There's trails, but it's still, it takes like, I don't know, 7-8 hours or something. It was a kind of a grueling hike. And going on, when we finally made it to the top, it was dark, and there was 2 things that made the biggest impact on me from that experience. One was being about, I don't know, 12 to 13,000, feet up or whatever, with basically no light pollution. Looking up, it was like the canopy of heaven, right? It was like, I did not know it was possible to see that many stars from Earth. For one, that was, made a big impact on me. The other one was, we're in Japan. It's the land of the rising sun, right? So I'm looking east at the Pacific Ocean. And from up there, I mean, you can literally see hundreds of miles. So the sun was rising, and I remember just standing there and just kind of being in awe of the scenery, which is that you could see a very clean horizon of ocean without the land skewing the perspective. And as I'm looking all the way to the left, and I'm looking all the way to the right. And what I noticed was at the outer edges, I saw it curve. And this was before anybody was suggesting, like today, that maybe the Earth is flat or there's no curvature or whatever. So that idea wasn't suggested in my mind to see if it was or wasn't. I just noticed that I absolutely saw a curvature, and it was only possible by looking at unbroken ocean at that height with no land available to skew my perspective. And I thought to myself, basically word for word, I am so high up here, I can actually see the curvature of the Earth. And that was that was a profound impact on me. Even the so-called scientists, and whatever you want to call them today, disputing flat Earth, would also say that that's not even high enough to see the curvature. But I did see it. And that was my experience. That was my empirical experience and my empirical observation. David's on mute.
You're muted, Dave.
Yeah, you need
I
to
like doing that. I do that every show.
Explain
My
yourself,
favorite.
Dave. You need to explain that.
It's my favorite. So the limitations of our eyes make the sky and the ground, like, forget curved earth. You're in a Home Depot and it's 20 miles long. The ceiling and the floor are going to merge like a mile away, right? You're not going to be able to see. Now, if you zoomed in, you could open it up and see farther, right? So when we're looking out, the higher we are, the farther we can see. In the Home Depot, you can throw some coins on the floor, go to the end of the aisle, lay down, put your cheek on the ground, open your lower eye. You can't see those coins. Lift your head up, you can see them, right? That doesn't mean that the floor is curved. It just means the angular resolution limits of things down lower disappear faster. So when you're looking out, when you look forward, this, let's say it's, whether the horizon is 3 miles away, which it should be if you're 6 feet tall, but at top of a mountain, it's much farther away. You know, we can do the calculation that, well, whatever elevation you're at, how far the horizon should be, which actually matches the angular resolution limits of your eyes out to like 7 decimal places. But if this was 12 o'clock, whatever this distance is, at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all the way around, you see the same distance in all directions. So when you're standing here, you see the same distance in all directions. That is a curved line. So I'll put a straight line out there. If you believe the earth is a globe and you look out, you're going to see a curved horizon around you. And you're going to say, that's the curve of the earth. It's the curve of your vision you see in a circle. This does not prove that the earth is flat because it's the same on a ball and a flat earth. You would see the same thing on a ball and a flat earth. The only difference on a flat earth is the horizon would start dropping lower and lower the farther you can see. But it doesn't do that. Now, everyone says, oh, the horizon rises to eye level. It doesn't. It appears to rise to eye level. But in reality, when you're looking 20, 30, 40 miles out, the horizon is thousands of feet above your eye level. But it looks like it's at your eye level, which is how the sun sets, how all celestial objects set from the bottom up. But you saw this curve. You're not lying. You just interpreted it possibly incorrect if the earth is flat.
So when I'm looking straight, you know, the horizon is going to look flat.
No, it's not. Because when you look straight, like where you point your arm in front of you, right? And the horizon's at the tip of your finger. The horizon's also at the tip of your finger. Here, all the way around. That is a circle. That is the curve that you're seeing. It's a limit of your vision in a circle. You don't see a straight line because those outer edges of the straight line are farther past where you can see.
So the curve that I saw was in my peripheral vision because when I turn my head like this, if it's
of course
flat, yeah,
of course it is.
Course.
It's a flat curve. But if you think the Earth is a globe, you'll think it's a globe curve. If you think the Earth is flat, you'll say it's the limit of my vision. Both are suitable answers, and they both work the same on both. So I say this proves nothing, but it doesn't prove that there's curve of the earth. It's just a interpretation of what you're seeing. Now, the horizon for a 6 foot tall observer at perfectly calm water with perfectly clear air is just 3 miles. Just 3 miles. And we see way, 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 way beyond that. For example, let me just pull this up real quick. So if I go here, 1 sec. So here is Milwaukee, 80 miles away. 80 miles away from this beach, and we can see the lights of Milwaukee. And the amount of curvature, what is the amount of curvature here? Is miles of curvature. Do you have the curve calculator in front of you, Vinny?
I don't.
Yeah, I could do it real quick.
Like,
so if I go to the curve calculator, 80 miles. It doesn't matter the observer height at this point because the amount of curvature is ridiculous. 80 miles, calculate. It's almost 4,000 feet of curvature. So it's have to be a 400-story building for me to see those buildings. So again, we can't detect any curvature. We can see far, far, far beyond the limitations of a ball would require. Now, we can also see not as far as the ball would allow. That's because of optical stuff. But on the perfectly clear day, on a ball Earth, there is a limit, a required physical limit of how far you can see. At 10 miles, there should be 66 feet of curvature. So a 6 foot tall person could not see something 10 miles away unless it was over 60 feet tall. I can see a buoy on the water and the water surface beyond that buoy. Now, does that say the Earth is flat? No. It says the Earth is thousands of times bigger than they tell us, or maybe it's just flat.
So
Aaron,
here's my response. Here's my
go ahead.
response.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Later, I'll analyze what your explanation is about me viewing.
By the way, I'm happy to have a conversation offline with you
Yeah.
to help you if you want to. If you're interested, happy to have a adult discussion with you.
So I will analyze it later
Okay.
because I can't pretend I have a response or rebuttal to you right now.
Good.
That's honest.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that's
Honesty.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I wish a lot more people would just say that rather than blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
That's why Aaron's a great guy.
But let me go into
Yeah.
gravity.
Yeah.
If the Earth is flat and how. So there's the model of gravity, where I would just say the way that gravity works would have to be symmetrical all the way around. So what I mean by that is what is your perspective of gravity and how gravity works?
Let's go to gravity. Let me just show you this for 1 second. This oil rig is 6 miles away, and this one is 10 miles away. The observer is 8 feet high, and so the horizon should be 3.4 miles away, right? But not only is the horizon not here, I can see the surface of the water here, and I can see the surface of the water far beyond here. So again, if something doesn't curve, then it's what? Now we want to go to gravity. This is something you might actually be able to give us some insight on.
With density and buoyancy.
So
right?
Density and buoyancy work on a flat Earth and a globe Earth, right? Something's more dense than the air, it goes down. But why does it go down? Now, there is an electrostatic flow from the sky to the ground, and I think that sets the downward direction. But I think it's Michio Kaku that says the electrostatic force is 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's that number, but I would tend to agree that the electrostatic force is way stronger than gravity. Tesla, was in the direction that electrostatic forces in nature are probably the most powerful.
Yeah.
But I don't give much credit to much of what Michio Kaku says about anything.
I don't think he's right on that either. I'm going to point that out to you in a second. If you bear with me just for a second, I just want to show you a little experiment that we did and get your professional opinion on it, because we're just trying to figure this stuff out. And if you're working with Eric Dollard, you probably have some good insight. So I'm just scanning, trying to find is this it? All right, so we got some leftover helium balloons. I got a button here. We tied it to it, and it's just neutrally buoyant, a couple inches over the floor. That wire is going to a Vandegraph generator. Now, if the ground is neutral and the sky is positive, when we add a positive charge to it, it goes down. And then when we discharge it, it goes back up. So we're independently manipulating the electrostatic charge or something. We're not manipulating gravity. So we could say here pretty clear that we've changed the electrostatic force to make something go down. Now we can do the opposite too. We can, this tinfoil, we can add a negative charge to it and it goes up. Turn it off, it goes down. So we're not changing gravity. We're changing electrostatic charge, buoyancy, and density, sort everything else out. And then I'm sure you know about some of the aircraft that uses electrostatics to fly. This is the Silent Drone by MIT, and it uses electrostatics, no moving parts, to fly. All right, so we can scientifically test electrostatics up, down, buoyancy, and density. Great. Now the theory of gravity. So let's pretend gravity's real. Let's pretend, hey, I proved gravity. And let's pretend Michio Kaku's right, which is a reach. Do you know how big 10 to the 36 is? If I had a grain of sand and I made it 10 to the 36 power bigger, do you know how big it would be? Do you have any idea?
Well, it's about 1/3 of a Google.
So, okay. Well,
right?
Vinny,
that's running with 100 zeros, and 36 is about 1/3 of a.
Well, there you go. So, Vinny, take a guess. What would you compare a grain of sand 10 to the 36 power bigger?
Yeah, I have no idea.
What would you compare it to? Would you compare it to a house, the moon,
solar
the Earth?
system or something?
Yeah, it's ready for this?
Mountain.
It's 10 million times bigger than the known universe. Okay, so now we know Michio Kaku's full of shit. Okay, because 10 to the 36, I don't even think that number exists.
Wow.
But that's how big it is. So the people that believe in gravity are throwing complete and total bullshit at us to make us just melt our brains so we don't question them. But nobody's ever independently isolated gravity from electrostatics and proven it. The Cavendish experiment had the sun and the moon pass over twice during the experiment. That's electrostatic, that's changing everything. It has nothing to do with gravity. So it's something to look into. There you go.
Great job, Dave and Aaron. I know, Aaron, you're pressed for time. And
I can give my 2 cents on the subject a little bit.
Please do. Your
Okay.
2 cents is worth 5 cents.
And Vinny, I got to say, we got to do this more often.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great.
Aaron, anytime you want to have a longer conversation, I'm available for you anytime you want. Okay.
You're obviously someone who's, we're to respect your opinion.
Eric Dollard is a hero. He long before I started looking into flat Earth or anything, I was a big Eric Dollard fan. I was like, this guy is onto something.
Yeah. And Aaron too. I mean, so much respect. Yeah. So it's great to see this dialogue. So
I have a quick question for Aaron.
Yeah.
It's not my quick. In your cosmological model, are the stars distant stars like we're taught? Yes.
They could be, but what's complex about it is that it's possible that light actually doesn't even move the way that we think of it. Another thing is in space, light is basically invisible.
I understand that. So, but are the stars? Are the stars, super distant, infinite distances away?
Who knows?
Oh, good answer.
Good answer.
So here's the thing. Let's say we're in the plains of Kansas, and a couple miles away, there's a train going parallel to our vision, and it's going at a consistent speed. And I do a time lapse. The train's going to go a certain amount of distance in my viewfinder because I did a time lapse. Right now, let's say it was 10 miles away, whatever. Okay, 10 miles away, and let's say I move 50 feet closer, and I do a time lapse again. Am I going to see much of a difference in the time lapse? Probably not, right? It's very tiny difference. So if we do a time lapse of the stars from sea level, and then we go top of a mountain, 10,000 feet, same place, the stars move significantly faster in the same time. Now, to me, that rules out infinitely distant stars. That what we're seeing, I think they're electrical phenomena. That's the best explanation I have. Are super close, like within our world.
I've never thought about it. I've never
think about that. Yeah,
never looked into it.
Yeah,
like those.
I have one more question, slightly off this topic. Is in your cosmology, globe, hollow globe, whatever it is space a void of like a vacuum? Is space empty or filled with ether or whatever? But is space a low pressure system?
So space is not a void. It's not a true vacuum. Space is filled with space is ether. So if there's no space, it's counter space.
I got that. Is it a low pressure system? Like if you sealed my room off and then took me into space and then opened up a window, am I dead?
The ether is already there. It's basically moving through everything.
But there's ether here. There's ether there. But there's air here. Mm-hmm. Is there air up there?
It's void of atmosphere. Well, no, there's gases floating around through the universe and stuff because when you look at a galaxy, there's all kinds of gases floating out in there in space. But for the most part, for the most part, it's empty of actual gases. No atmosphere. It's a
super low pressure system. It's like if we had the Sandusky vacuum chamber, they can get it down to not even as low pressure as space. So my question to you is, why doesn't all the air go poof into space?
The gravitational gravity is
holding the air down, but
pushing it down.
Scientific papers say that gravity gases flow independent of gravity. So here's a question I have: if we take this, that's not what I wanted to show you. Hold on a second.
There is something called stratification where
Right.
The denser gases are at the bottom and lighter ones go up
I got
because
it.
of gravity.
So here we have gas, a valve, and a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can make this vacuum like bigger, big as a house, as big as infinite space. Gas, a valve, and vacuum. Gravity is below me. I didn't turn gravity off. And when we open the valve, the gas goes up and away from gravity. Why didn't gravity hold it down?
Okay, so it's the same. So my model predicts the effects of Brownian motion, for example, which explains the interaction with gases and how it does push gas down, even though
I,
gas can move up.
I,
So Brownian motion, if you have, let's say, a true colloidal silver, for example, with the water, and it's got these micro colloids of silver in it. A colloid is known to, randomly move around like that in the water, right? As the ether is moving down, it's imparting a push on those colloid particles, and then they move out of the way like this. So you constantly have all that random movement about is because the ether is pushing on it, and then it's slipping out from under it like this. And this
yeah.
is the effect of Brownian motion.
Here's a gas simulator. And if let me just jump forward here. If I create a vacuum on the outside and remove the container, or just open the container, all the gas will go up and away. Go out. So here, if I completely remove the container, it just goes poof and it's gone, and we'd all be dead. And when you want to say that gravity is holding it down, hold on, it should open in a second. Why isn't that going? There it goes. Boom. It's gone. So this is, I don't know if you believe in NASA or not, but this is the pale blue dot. And this is the infinite vacuum. This is surrounded by air. What's holding the air down? And it can't be gravity, because I can take a straw and I can create the weakest low pressure system imaginable with my mouth and lungs and pull water and air up and away from gravity effortlessly. So if space is a vacuum, a low pressure system, what's holding the air down?
Gravity.
Something to think about. Well, you can't say that, because I can make my low the low pressure system of space is 10 to the 36 power stronger than my mouth and lungs. I mean, it's ridiculously stronger, and my mouth can pull water and air effortlessly up and away from gravity. So it's not holding it down with the weak force of my low pressure system. How does a crazy low pressure system not pull all the air away? And the higher up you get, the less gravity there is, supposedly. But it doesn't even matter, because I'm down here and I could pull water and air up and away with the low pressure system. Something to think about. Something to think about.
Well, I can tell you this. I don't even know what the actual conventional explanation is. It's not something that I've ever cared about.
I got it. And that doesn't make your... I got it. There's a lot of things that, a lot of people, super smart people, I consider you one of them, haven't looked into, right? So it's something to consider, that like what I'm showing you here, like what we'd all be dead if there's no containment. Gas needs a container. Gas pressure is antecedent of having a container. Without a container, you can't have pressure. And if there's
what do you
low
think is holding
pressure,
it down?
I think we're enclosed in something. Don't ask me what it is, because I haven't gone there. But I think that we're enclosed. Now, biblically, it says, we're enclosed with the firmament, and there's lots of evidence. The Go Fast rocket crashed into something. When it was up there over Arizona, you could see the moon. That was over Australia. That would be impossible on a globe. There's lots of things, but it requires a container. That's how
I think it's great. I've enjoyed watching both of you guys. I definitely think, Aaron, that, if you're interested, I mean, Dave's got a big channel and a lot of followers, and I definly feel like you guys should continue talking and do stuff like
when you
in the
have time, my
future.
friend. You are
If you
doing a
feel
lot
like
of
it,
important. You're doing a lot of important work.
yeah.
And we don't listen. We don't agree on some things, but maybe you teach me something, I teach you something. We'll try to figure out something together.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I mean,
I'll have to leave here in just a bit, but I'll leave you with one
You're
last
running,
thing.
huh? I got you
no,
running.
no.
I'm just kidding.
At least I said I had to leave earlier, but now I'm just kidding.
I'm kidding, Aaron. Totally kidding.
So we're obviously all in the same one single dimension of space. That's the dimension of space. It's one dimensional.
Right.
But all four of us are at different XYZ coordinates.
We're actually at XY coordinates, longitude and latitude. I mean, with slight variations in elevation, but our whole world is mapped out on a flat XY orientation. Where's the Z-axis, right? How come my friend in Australia isn't have a massive different, Z-axis? It's X and Y. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if the Earth is a sphere and somebody's on the other side of the planet, they are at a different Z than us. And
but
so
what if they're not? And it's just X and Y like we use.
But see, with this coordinate system where the propaganda comes from, and this is the entire model of physics, falls flat on its face, is that space is one dimensional. But the point is that coordinates are not dimensions. Coordinates are just not.
I don't think space is one dimensional. I think it's fake.
But basically, that's a very important distinction, and this conversation can carry on at a different time. And we should have Eric on. He'd love to take part in these conversations. I know he would.
I'd be too nervous to talk to him.
They would be too nervous, he said, Aaron.
He's not into, he's completely opposed to the flat Earth stuff, but there's a lot of other stuff that we can talk about,
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we all have respect for each other, I mean, it could be really great debates or talks like I feel like you both had.
I don't consider this a debate. I think we're just sharing a couple ideas here and raising a couple eyebrows. That's it.
I hope the audience enjoys it, and you both deserve respect for it. And I hope something in the future where we could set up where, even Eric Dollard involved.
Sure, yeah, and he specifically said he had fun on the podcast he was on with Brother Sanchez and
the one we did, yeah,
and stuff like that, and he still had it.
He was on with Bro Sanchez, and he's not a flat earther yet.
No, I brought him on I brought him on the Bro Sanchez thing, but then it got a little heated with the flat Earth. So,
yeah. But I don't get heated. I'm just having a discussion, and that's it. I appreciate your knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. I think you'd have more fun with Dave.
I'm gonna get going, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. I'd love to do it again. And check out eMedia Press. And there's a contact us link on that website if anybody has any questions. And we'll see you next time.
People check out Aaron Murakami's YouTube channel, and I'll put some information. I mean, thank you again, Aaron, for showing up.
Man.
Hey, take care.
We appreciate your time, man.
Okay, take care.
Take care, man.
Yep. David Weiss here. I've been taking MasterPeace for probably over a year, maybe even 2 years, and the detox I feel from it is amazing. I have never felt better in my life. I know that sounds like a lot, but I sleep better. I have amazing dreams when I take it at night. I take it twice a day most of the time, but sometimes I only take it once a day because I forget. But it's definitely an amazing product, and now with the new research they've done where it is literally getting rid of the nanotech in your body, I can't imagine not having any. So there you go. That's my testimony, and I love the stuff, and I'm never going to stop taking it.